Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I've got a really great broadcast set up for you right now with the co-founder and editor over at one of the best alternative media sites that's really stayed true to itself over the years, 21st Century Newswire. I am joined by Patrick Henningsen to hopefully go over everything Epstein, the entire fiasco, just as you think it can't get more bizarre. There's a painting of Bill Clinton in a blue dress with red high heels in giant form in one of these mansions. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. It would be difficult to. And Mr. Henningsen's been at the forefront of this case for quite some time. So really, I want to give you the floor to talk about what you think is the most important part of this whole situation, sum that up, and then we can go over the latest news that now we have the autopsy results and there is some question as to the breaking in the bones in his neck, whether it could have been strangulation by somebody else. Take the floor, sir.
Hi, great to be with you, Jason. It's difficult to know where to start, but I think the most important issue with the Jeffrey Epstein case right now, and I think a lot of people can agree, the biggest question is this question going to get answered, which is, are the victims going to receive any justice, especially in light of the recent news of the apparent suicide whilst in federal custody of Jeffrey Epstein. So, and that's the big question is, where's the trial going to go? Where's the investigation going to go? Are there going to be other indictments with co-conspirators, people who were named in the documents that were unsealed in the various affidavits from the accusers or the victims, depending on which term you want to use? Is that going to happen? Is there going to be a justice, or is this going to be drawn out into legalese? Is this going to be mired in various complications, and then exits are going to be blocked off, entrances into segues in this case are going to be blocked by politics? Is it going to get overtaken by some side issues that we've seen so many times in the past? And I'm afraid to say there's some of the things that are appearing right now into the scene don't look promising. I'll give you an example: the introduction of Michael Baden, the celebrity coroner, who's been hired by the Epstein family to oversee the autopsy proceedings. I mean, this is the person, who's involved in so many of these other celebrity deaths where you haven't really got much of a result. I mean, he was involved in the death of John Belushi. He was asked to preside over that. Anna Nicole Smith, the O.J. Simpson case. And most interestingly, the Phil Spector case. And so if you want to draw any parallels between the Epstein and the sort of seediness of the Epstein case, you can certainly look at the Phil Spector murder case. And by the way, I think Michael Baden's, I think I might be wrong, but his wife was also one of the lead attorneys on the defense on that. So I don't know if that was a coincidence either, but it also links to the JFK committee as well. So is this going to go down in history as one of those unsolved great American conspiracies forever? We'll never get any actual resolution on it. Is that where this is going? I think that's the big question. Are the victims going to get justice? In terms of the irregularities and the weirdness of this, and also the potential conspiracies in terms of involvement of intelligence agencies, for instance, organized crime, and corporations, foreign countries like Israel, for instance, as an example, his proximity to some of these entities and corridors of power. Where does it sit? Where is he in all this? Where are the guests, his VIP guests on the manifest? How much of this is going to get drawn into, an actual scandal? This is the big question. And it's not clear what's going to happen as a result of this. There's certainly plenty of red meat on the table in terms of VIPs and connections and associations and affiliations, right up to the Clinton family as well. Where's it going to go? He's out of the picture now, so that's not good. It also means that the media can flip the narrative very, very easily. Very easily. You could have a situation where a co-conspirator could come forward, like Ghislaine Maxwell, his a partner and associate, daughter of former media magnate and Israeli super spy Robert Maxwell. She could easily be rebranded in the media in sympathetic terms. You can see the Barbara Walters or the Anderson Cooper 60-minute interview. Oh, Jeffrey was such a monster. He made me do it. And we lived in fear every day. And all of a sudden you have the whole thing flipped and people attacking the victims, accusing the girls of cashing in on the fame and the opportunity. As Alan Dershowitz, one of the people named by some of the victims, has already done, attacked the victims systematically, using his clout to basically destroy the credibility of some of the female accusers. That could go mainstream. In other words, that could be the media tact.
Well, there's a lot to talk about right there. And one of the things you're talking about, will the victims get justice? The day before the actual suicide that took place, I actually saw in my sponsored feed people taking Epstein victims for civil suits. Like it had gotten that large that they were asking for more people to come in. And of course, less than 24 hours before that, we had the document dump with Virginia Roberts Giuffre. I would say probably the most high-profile name there is Bill Richardson, ex-New Mexico governor, where Epstein owns properties, Zorro Ranch, of course, a guy they tried to run for president in 2008, a Bohemian Grove member and keynote speaker at one time, somebody who's kind of been in the public eye, Genie Energy, all these different connections. Now, as far as the other people, we know that 3 people were working with the NYPD in that indictment, employee 1, 2, and 3. Now, is that Leslie Groff? Is that Sarah Kalin? Is that Nadia Marcinkova? Is it Natalia Malyshev? Now we have new names, Ronaldo Rizzo, Tony Figueroa, like you said, and others. So it is very unclear. Jeffrey Berman has said that, they're going to pursue other criminal charges against people, but how can we trust that when it's now been revealed Ghislaine Maxwell has been in the States the past 3 years living with some Boston tech CEO? Why has she not been arrested if they've now been back in this case for several years? For instance, Giuffre says that she talked to the FBI, I believe, as far back as 2013. And if you believe the Maria Farmer accounts, where all this is taking place, 2002 to 2005 in New York, that's when she went to the FBI as well before the Palm Beach allegations. So I think you're right. First of all, we failed. The country failed again. This was a moment where we could say, hey, maybe there is justice, but by not being able to keep him alive, not even after we picked him up, but after one quote-unquote suicide attempt, is beyond reason to me. I thought, no way, but then you look at who they put him in there with. First of all, it's the MCC, incredibly corrupt, in a city with all sorts of different intelligence agencies, all sorts of wealthy connections that have back doors into these operations. I'm not saying that's what happened, but hey, it's corrupt there. The cop they put him in there with, ex-cop, was accused of triple murder. He had been in a physical altercation in 2018 in that same wing of the prison, and just before Epstein got there, had smuggled in what they described as a miniature cell phone he was making phone calls and text messages with. At the very least, that showed the corruption well before Epstein got there. The idea that there were not cameras everywhere, there was not a guard 24/7 in front of that cell, and, in my opinion, why they didn't put a $40 body camera on him hooked to a live feed via Bluetooth is unacceptable. I mean, the budget on that for the most high-profile prisoner, I think, of all time. I mean, you could argue maybe when we went and got Noriega, there's some parallels there, but he wasn't an American citizen. So, Patrick, I think we have failed. I don't know where this is going. I think you're spot on in your analysis. I think that we have to raise hell and take what we can from the documentation that has been out there, make sure that Maxwell and others are indicted. But now let's get to, everybody's a conspiracy theorist in this country and probably around the world now, because nobody agrees. Was he switched out? Was he strangled to death? Did he hang himself? Et cetera, et cetera. With all the information out there now, and now with the autopsy reports talking about broken bones that are somewhat uncommon in that type of hanging from a 6-foot bed frame, they're saying, with paper-like sheets, which is still incredible. Again, these are the public things. So what's your take? Let's hear it.
Well, it's hard to know where to start there. In terms of the recent news about the autopsy and the hyoid bone in the neck. All I can say is Americans love legal battles and legal minutia. And so you'll get a 1,001 hyoid bone experts now appearing on social media, fleshing that out now. And that's the sort of wedge diversion that the media absolutely love. And that's the sort of thing that's just going to get in the way of real progress on the case. In terms of everyone in the country being a conspiracy theorist, absolutely. This is that one case that's broken the dam on what's considered appropriate discourse with regard to what's considered a conspiracy or what's too far to speculate. I think a lot of that has to do with the confluence of events. This Epstein scandal, the VIPs involved, but the fact that Donald Trump is the president right now, because overwhelmingly the connections between Epstein and the Clintons, it's by orders of magnitude much greater than anything in terms of what seems to be available with regards to his relationship with the current president. So, and the media is obviously lined up against this president. That's no secret. Everybody knows that. So immediately the knee-jerk reaction was even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez coming out saying this looks like a scandal. This needs to be investigated. And Joe Scarborough, another mainstream pundit, coming out, and so many of them. The reason is because it's happening under a Trump administration. Clearly, that they see this would be under the Bill Barr DOJ. He's already been branded, wrongly or rightly so, as the most corrupt attorney general imaginable, and so forth, a la Russiagate and Mueller, and that fiasco. So if this happened, now you have to remember, if Hillary Clinton was president right now, I'm giving you a hypothetical, but I think we can agree that this is probably what would happen. If this was a Clinton presidency and this story somehow broke and Epstein was somehow apprehended by some miracle and died in custody like this, how do you think the media would treat it under a Clinton administration or an Obama administration, for that matter, versus a Trump administration? It'd be treated very differently. And, flights to Africa with Clinton and Epstein and Chris Tucker and Kevin Spacey running around, that would kind of be very casually brushed under the carpet under a Democratic administration. I'm not being partisan at all. I'm just giving you a fact. Mm-hmm. I believe
let me say this,
case.
Patrick. I would say that the administration and those on that side of the fence also did themselves no favors by saying there was no relationship when there was clearly some relationship previous. For instance, we knew that way before all this had broken, where he was arrested, et cetera, Acosta, we knew that he had had Maxwell and Epstein on his plane from a 2000 Vanity Fair article where they showed up on the runway, and he said, "You broke the cardinal rule, Jeffrey. You were late for somebody else's plane." Now, if you believe the Guthrie documents, he was also on that plane, but not on the island, right? She said she exonerated him of flirting with these people. So, I had some back and forths and DMs with people that I respect, and they were saying, "Oh, there's no connection. That's not real." I said, "Well, look at this." And now we have, for instance, this guy who, I think his name's George Horneray, who's going around saying that he made this private party happen for Epstein and Trump at Mar-a-Lago, where 28 models came in. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not, but he is getting media attention. He's making this claim. He's also making the claim this is where he actually met Melania and the other parts of Cover Story. Now, I don't know if it's true, but that may be one of the reasons that they were trying to distance themselves. I mean, we know that Melania was like a B actress in these like lesbian softcore films. She's done nude modeling, et cetera, et cetera. That's Trump's thing. This is his third wife. Obviously, he hasn't been faithful to any of them. But I think that the majority of us who at least initially supported him or voted for him knew all that, and it was on the table. And we said, you know what? The devil you know is better than the devil that you really know. So, again, I don't think they did themselves favors. I'm as nonpartisan as can be, and I always went to both sides and said, look, you got to acknowledge this because down the road it's going to come out. And now, I think they tried to get ahead of the Acosta thing, for instance. They let Acosta get up there for an hour and babble, and as soon as it wasn't going well and those intelligence connections came up twice and he couldn't deny them, what happened? Less than 24 hours later, he's resigning with the president by his side. At the same point, I think that Trump is confident enough that his relationship with Epstein is nowhere near that Clinton relationship with Epstein. And I think with this bizarre revelation of a large mural of Clinton in a dress at one of these mansions of his is more confirmation of that. It seems like that's a big, and excuse my French here, fuck you to Bill Clinton. I own your ass. That's just my interpretation. What's yours on that and the Clinton relationship in general?
Okay. The first thing I'll say is the relationship with Trump, the party at Mar-a-Lago, it was fairly public. I think there was two Dallas Miami Dolphin cheerleaders or something like that. I forgot which NFL teams were there. Tons of models. That's not unusual with Donald Trump. Epstein was there. I don't know how many years ago that was, 1993 or something. So, in terms of the recent narrative, when Epstein was active in this network that he was operating, this came after. The Clintons were very tight. And it's documented that Jeffrey Epstein was backing, if you look at the early journalistic articles, backing the founding of the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative. There's also statements by an attorney that Jeffrey Epstein put $4 million or $4.5 million in seed funding into the beginnings of the Clinton Foundation. The timelines match up in terms of where Bill Clinton was with Epstein and many different flights shared and meetings and so forth. That's not trivial. They didn't meet for nothing. There was something to be done. There was business to be done, support to be done. So Jeffrey Epstein effectively bought his way into what was meant to be the future Democratic presidential administration of Hillary Clinton, because that's what the Clinton Foundation, the Global Initiative, was. It was about opening up a vehicle globally where foreign actors could come in and basically buy into the Clinton machine in the hopes that when she became president in either 2008 or in 2016, that they would be able to cash in that support. In terms of favorable relations with Washington and most favored nation status or most favored member of the international transnational cartel and all the opportunities and support that goes along with that to being at the top of that pecking order. Certainly that's why people would have put money into the Clinton Global Initiative for that reason and that reason only. There's also a money laundering aspect to it as well. And I think that's a big part of the Jeffrey Epstein story is money laundering, is using other people's money in not having things in your name and so forth. This is how he was able to manage and stay under the radar in such a great way. This is clearly what his skill set was working the margins, basically. He himself, who knows what his net worth actually is, but it's not nearly as high probably as people think it is. But he had, for whatever reason, he had properties in his name, shared the deed that he didn't pay for, including one of the most expensive properties in Manhattan, but also with the heiress of the Johnson & Johnson fortune in Vail, Colorado. A lot of people don't know about that. He was on the deed for that. I forgot how much that property is worth. It's upwards of $20 million up in Vail. And so how did he get onto the deeds of this property? He had some relationship with these various people like Leslie Wexner or the heiress of the Johnson empire as well, and others too, that he was able to parlay some of the most expensive properties in the world. And so this is the mystery of Jeff Epstein. This is the wizardry, if you will, of Epstein and his network. And what exactly are you looking at there? It's very difficult to say, but I think personally, a lot of people are speculating online. You see a lot of articles, links to, connections to, associated to, and a lot of tenuous connections. And is he at the center of that spider web? What exactly, are the links to the Jewish mafia, to the Italian crime families, to the Israeli intelligence, to the CIA? All of this stuff is a bevy of speculation, and there's very little evidence to kind of validate it. Was there a blackmail operation with regards to sex trafficking, underage sex trafficking, combined with a blackmail operation in order to extort money, to keep people in line, to control people via the intelligence? There's so much speculation, and we really don't know for sure exactly how those relations are set up. We don't have a lot of insight into the relationship between Jeff Epstein and Bill Clinton, for instance, or Jeff Epstein and Bill Richardson, for instance, Jeff Epstein and George Mitchell, for instance, Benjamin Netanyahu, or more likely Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister. What exactly is their relationship? Is it a business relationship? Do they get money from Epstein? Does he traffic in intelligence for them on an ad hoc basis? Is he on the payroll of an intelligence? We don't know. In fact, we'll never probably know. I personally think you're dealing with an overlap of organized crime. You have a new transnational superclass of digital swashbuckling venture capitalists, AI investors. These are a new class of single empty nester type people that populate Bilderberg's steering committee, that populate Silicon Valley boards, that are big into defense industry, big into surveillance, big into, if a good metaphor would be the James Bond film Spectre, the Nine Eyes Committee, where they would harvest data to realize that the information intelligence on every single individual, in a profiling everybody in a Cambridge Analytica style way. This is the real power going forward into the 21st century, where this new super class, this super tech class, will replace the old guard that really held court at sort of the highest committees of planetary management, if you will, like Davos and Bilderberg, and I'm talking on the Western side, not on the Eastern side, and also the CFR, for instance. And so, big oil being replaced by big data.
Well,
so
you know
Peter
what? Let me stop you there.
Takes the reins, yeah.
Because you named so many groups, and the one, I'm glad you said the CFR, because Epstein seemed to be a member and also buddies with
And
Larry
the
Summers
Trilateral
through there.
Commission.
That's
He was a
exactly what
member
I
of
wanted to talk to
Trilateral.
you. Now,
Yeah.
the Trilateral Commission, we've now confirmed it from at least 95 to 2008. Vicky Ward said 2011. I'm not sure if that's the case. But just the fact that he was there in the mid-90s shows that kind of globalist aspect of this. Vicky Ward also coming out and saying that he was involved with Adnan Khashoggi, who was brokering the arms trade deals that went through Israel to South America, and the drugs came from South America to the United States, and everything was laundered through BCCI. I think that's a huge connection that needs to be looked at, especially because everybody talks about Prince Andrew, who just stepped down from all his official duties the other day, but they don't talk about how he's the main arms dealer for that country, cutting arms trade deals with Saudi Arabia. So is that part of the connection? Is Epstein cutting those kind of deals and then laundering that money? I think that's a very real thing on top of this supposed blackmail operation. I think it's also not talked about enough. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that Trilateral Commission connection really quick, and then wrap it up, because I know that I've already had you on for 22 minutes, and I really appreciate your time, Patrick. Also, tell people where they can get all your stuff and support you as well.
Sure. Well, let's just finish off the Epstein conversation. So it's good that you pointed out Prince Andrew. This is probably one of the highest profile names that's been dropped in this case. So yeah, he does act as a sales rep for the British arms industry. That's a really important role that prime ministers and certain people play, like Prince Andrew. So was it a blackmail operation, or is he laying it on? Was he laying it on for his jet set super class pals? In other words, laying on the highest levels of vice and pleasure on private islands, private jets. I mean, these are people that could call somebody in Europe and say, "Oh, I'm going to send a plane to pick you up. You want to go to the Caribbean tomorrow? Don't worry, I'll send a plane. Be down at Northrop Air Force Base at midnight, and they'll pick you up." I mean, that's the kind of power this superclass has, and that's the sort of influence they wield in their social circle, their power circle. And what do they want in return for that? Well, they want some, they want to be in the middle of whatever. Is Jeffrey Epstein, profiting from those financially, or is his loyalty to a government, or is his loyalty to money? This is another fundamental question that people need to answer, because you have to do a psychological profile on the subject to really understand what's motivating them. And I don't see a lot of that going on. in terms of all the blogging and the speculation and the reporting. Everyone's just go connect to, links to, and so forth in the vicinity of. And I've got people, whole daisy chains of networks that have been constructed by various, journalists and bloggers and stuff like that. And there's a danger that the speculation just gets so weighed down and out of control that the thing just becomes a mess, basically. And you might end up missing some really, really important things. I think the Clinton Global Initiative thing is really important. The Clinton Foundation thing is important because of what could have been in terms of the constructing that empire. I think his connections and his investment in artificial intelligence and wanting to curry favor with the scientific community, his interest in transhumanism, which is pretty obvious, okay, that's a big deal. So he's wanting to rub shoulders with Ray Kurzweil. He's wanting to rub shoulders with all of these people, these AI programmers, some of the smartest people mathematically and scientifically on the planet. He's right in the mix there. Plus, he's in the mix with surveillance, high-tech defense contracting, Carbine, this other company he appears to have had an interest in, that's basically a backdoor into everybody's smartphone via a 911 app. So mass surveillance potential and intelligence gathering there. So it's a very difficult web, a very complicated web that Jeffrey Epstein is in. If you want to follow the trail on blackmail, if that's what you're interested in, I think you need to look more at Ghislaine Maxwell than Jeffrey Epstein himself, because he seems to have been partaking, getting high on his own supply, as it were, and she seems to be the one who's the real brains and the organization behind the trafficking side. This is according to the documents that have been released. So everyone's looking at Epstein when really Maxwell is clearly the brains of that operation. So if there's any intelligence gathering, it's really going to be, my pick is going to be her, is kind of running that side of things. But again, if we're going to miss all that if we over speculate, and I think this is a big danger with a lot of the way people are kind of, it's a free-for-all right now. There is so much on the table. It's a buffet of just about everything. And you said something really important. America going, and I talked about it before, but got sidetracked, this is like wearing a tinfoil hat is acceptable and mainstreamed with this story. And there's partisan reasons for that right now. But it is true that generally people are not going to be able to swallow an official cover-up in the same way on this story, partly because it has to do with the sex trafficking issue. That's a real emotive issue, and that's going to hit right down to the core with a lot of people, as Savile did in the UK a few years ago. You can't. It's going to mobilize a lot of interest, and people aren't going to let it go so easily. So I think with regards to Epstein, so that's going to. In a way, it's great because it means that being able to just bury this and go with an official story and tell everyone to walk away, it's not good enough in this particular instance. I think that's good to see even mainstream journalists going nuts, even if it's Trump motivated, but to see them losing it on air over this story, I think this is positive because then even they're thinking outside the box slightly. They've basically broken ranks by challenging the government on this, which before was absolutely verboten. Doesn't matter what party side you were on. There's only a few people that would step out of line on a story like this. Or it'll be, John DeCamp, a state senator from Nebraska who investigated the Franklin scandal. A few outliers like this that pushed and brought that story up to the surface. So in that sense, was Epstein suicided? What did he commit suicide? Was he murdered? We don't actually know. All three are possible. But it's not improbable that he was killed in custody. It wouldn't be the first time, by the way. There's a lot of things to evaluate on this. And again, I'll go back to my original point. The most important point is: are the victims going to receive justice? Is the right parts of this criminal enterprise going to be exposed? Is anything going to be exposed? Will anybody be actually held to account? That's still the number one question with this, more than anything. So I'm not feeling super confident right now, but I'm not feeling completely skeptical and cynical either. I think there is something about this case that offers an opportunity that I think past situations and cases don't have. And I think there's a lot of people that now have a lot of capability in terms of information analysis gathering with the internet, with social media these days. It makes it really hard to bury and to submerge all of the aspects of this. And a lot of journalists have done some great work, like Nick Bryant, who Gawker published a couple of articles, like you mentioned, Vicky Ward, and others. And yep, there's Nick Bryant. Yep, and the also Miami Herald, Julie K. Brown. That's good journalism, and that's responsible for the FOIA requests. Why you have the unsealed documents that came out 24 hours before Epstein's death, and that's a really good journalistic work. But that's a type of work where they're digging and picking up the phone and chasing it down, and a lot of people in the alternative media or the mainstream media aren't doing a lot of that. They're just kind of a lot of speculation. So I think you need more of that kind of on the ground aggressive journalism is what's going to push this case forward. Possible indictments, or to see Maxwell or others indicted, maybe extradited. It's going to take a lot of people wanting to be proactive and come out front on this story, or they're just going to recede. Who knows? To be honest, Jason, it would just take a bombing raid in Somalia or a new war, and the media will be totally diverted onto that for the next 6 months, and this would get why they busy burying this Epstein mess.
Yeah,
basically.
Things heat up in Syria or Iran or any of that stuff. And honestly, even, another mass shooting. I mean, who knows? I don't want to speculate on any of that stuff, but you're right. They've been able to turn the media cycle so quickly away from important stories like this one. It was shocking to me that he even got arrested. I mean, I literally had to pinch myself. It was even more shocking on the first suicide attempt, and I didn't think it'd be topped. But then when he had actually successfully killed himself, I was shocked yet again. Hopefully there's going to be some more good shocks in this case, like you said, and we are going to see some justice and some unraveling of this very criminal, integral, global network that I believe is out there. With that being said, 21stcentury.com or 21stcenturywire.com is the website. They do amazing work. How can they support you, Patrick?
Listen, if people like what we're doing, they like our reporting at 21st Century Wire, they like the Sunday Wire radio show and podcast, they want to see more of that, they can support us by donating on the website, but also by subscribing and becoming a member at 21wire.tv, and there's links to that on our website right at the top menu. So we appreciate any support we get.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. We got to do this more often. This is the first time that we've actually hooked up. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Patrick. I will see you on the flip side, friend. So there you have it, guys. Patrick Henningsen, an amazing guest. I was so happy to have him on. I do have to jet over to the veterinarian for my dog. It is kind of sad. Hopefully she's going to be okay and overcome this one, but you never know. I don't want to get too emotional. We're still doing 3 to 7 videos a day. No matter what the outcome, I'm going to do a few more today on various subjects, including a revolt at Google that the media is trying to spin and be silent about, and I don't really care for. We got a couple days left in our GoFundMe. I think it ends tomorrow or the day after, and we're almost there. We're 4/5, actually over 4/5 the way there. So, hey, you got $5, $10, $15. I really appreciate it. All of this is a great stuff. Guys, if you're new to the channel, thumbs it up, share it, join the Burmese Brigade. We do in-depth interviews, in-depth deep dives into documents, on the cusp reporting about the subjects that matter. Nexium, Bilderberg, transhumanism, Epstein, geopolitics, Assange, Iran, Syria, and so much more. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you all on the flip side.